Welcome to another episode of French Toast Friday. I'm Andy Jolivet, and I'm joined by my friend Tyler. How you doing, buddy?
I am great.
Yeah, it's good to be with you. Behind the scenes, we have our friend Marco Zitzer. What's up, Marco?
Hello, everybody.
We are three guys who are just doing our best to enjoy life and keep things in perspective. Each of us owns a business that allows us to do meaningful work in the world. We have interests and hobbies that keep us busy. And we started this podcast after hanging out at Tyler's house. He had just made us French toast, and it was a Friday. Now, whether you're tuning in today during your commute to work, or maybe you're on the treadmill, or just taking a moment to try to unwind, this is a show where we want to keep it simple and sincere with plenty of syrup, just like that French toast.
Just like that day.
Yeah.
Sticky.
Yeah. Our guest for a conversation today is Patterson Leeth, who is Director of Brand Marketing for Sims Fishing. You are very excited to talk to Patterson.
So excited.
Yep.
Geeking out.
Before we talk to Patterson, we want to say thank you for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you'd be so kind, leave a review. I think that's all I got to say. Let's just jump into today's conversation, today's episode of French Toast Friday. This episode of French Toast Fridays is sponsored by Oak & Glen, a creative studio with a passion for visual storytelling. Well, we are joined by Patterson Leeth. Patterson is the Director of Brand Marketing at Sims Fishing Products. He joins us virtually. Thanks for being with us, Patterson.
Yeah, pleasure. Thanks for having me.
We were talking before we came on air about the fact that some people are going to be disappointed because they're going to think, ooh, the director of brand marketing from Sims is on it. They're going to be thinking like Sims, the video game, but we're talking about Sims with two M's.
Two M's.
Two M's.
So totally different one. I mean, if you want to talk about Sims, a video game, like don't feel like you got to stay in your lane of the double M Sims. But I know that my buddy Tyler in particular is excited because he is someone who has spent quite a bit of time fishing, including out in Montana where he lived for a time. But thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
You
guys.
didn't have us. Thanks for being with us.
Yeah, you had me.
Yeah,
You had me at hello.
you had me. Well, you had him at fly fishing.
You had me at Sims.
I did play like the original Sims.
Uh-huh.
Like on my I don't remember. It was like the Mac supercomputer, whatever that was after like the LC2s or 3s or whatever. It like didn't look like a Mac, but yeah, I used to like build cities and then wreck them with a tornado, but I never really got, which was like the end goal all the time.
Was
right?
that the tip? I never played Sims. Was that kind of the typical MO? Is like, let's
Well,
build all this up so I can wreck it?
I mean, the Mega Sims players built like cities and worlds, and yeah, it was all this stuff. So
That was a whole thing, like the theme park one with the roller coasters.
but you really get a gauge on what kind of person Patterson is by just that little Sim story.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah,
Builds them up and tears them down.
We'd love to get into that with you.
Yeah. Just when they started turning a profit and there was enough power for every citizen, it was like sending the tornadoes.
Yeah.
Does SIMMS know about that too?
It
I'm
wasn't
gonna
an
build up this
interview,
brand.
Tear it down. Tornado's coming through next week, brother.
Well, we like
you never
to
know these days.
we like to ask some questions to get started, to give you a chance to just tell some stories and introduce yourself to us and to the people. Tyler and I don't know you. Our connection with you is Marco, the man who just has a voice, no face. And so you guys have some connections, it sounds like, back in like the marketing advertising world and some work that you've done together. But what was your very first job?
Very like real job or like very first job?
I think interpret it the way you want, but I'm thinking probably like teen or preteen. Patterson.
Something you did and you got monetarily paid.
Yeah, but it might have just been like cash.
Yeah, I was a mulch monkey. I basically the guy who I grew up in southern Missouri and lived in this kind of neighborhood that was a bit out in the middle of nowhere at the time. Now, it's suburbia's grown up around it. It's not that far away. It doesn't seem that far away now, when you go back. But he was getting paid to babysit me, but he had a landscaping business. I was the only child. Both my parents worked. And so he double dipped. So then he went to all of the like neighborhoods around there. You know, his parents were doctors, so he had this like little doctor circuit of people who cared about their yards. And so I was getting babysat while he was getting paid by my parents, and then he was also getting paid by the people to do landscaping, and then he was giving me like $7 or whatever an hour. Yeah, he actually ended up being a landscape architect.
I was
which is
going to ask,
hilarious.
where did he
I was
end
gonna
up?
say he actually ended up in jail,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, no,
Would love to be that
he
guy's
actually-
accountant.
It's really cool. He actually ended up doing he actually ended up building all the trail systems around Bentonville, Arkansas, which is like blowing up as like one of the main kind of places to go ride bikes, thanks to the
Walmart.
did he
Walton
build them or
family,
did the
yeah.
kids he babysat
Yeah.
build them?
Yeah. Did he build this?
Yeah, now he has a daycare and a landscaping
Right.
business. That's
Dave's daycare is
pretty
building
wild,
up
yeah.
the trails in the back.
Yeah. We see that your
the
labor
buses
costs
show
are.
up, everybody walks out.
Yeah. Your payroll is somehow positive.
Miners. Oh, that's great. That's
That's
a good
good.
first
Yeah,
job.
So you
Yeah,
got
no,
you got
and
paid
then-
for it, but you also
I did.
had no
Yep,
choice
I
in the
did.
matter.
Correct. Yeah, I was going wherever he was going.
Yeah.
Babysitter rules.
The other funny thing is that was back in he had a little Ford Ranger 2-door, and it had a tape deck in it, and for whatever reason the only tape was like somehow the Aladdin soundtrack from the Disney movie had made it into this vehicle, and I swear to God, for like an entire summer
It's a whole
that
new
was
world.
like the only thing
It's
that,
a whole new
that
world.
played, and when it, yeah, exactly. And anytime an Aladdin song comes on, I'm like word for word, still like totally ingrained in
You've
my
got
head
this
from
like
a summer
major
of being-
urge to go mow some grass.
Yeah.
It's like, why did
Yeah,
why
exactly.
don't I want to stay inside? I got to go out and mow the grass.
Yeah.
That's great.
Well,
Yeah,
I don't-
I had a really weird career trajectory. It's definitely a ping pong ball.
Well, we'll kind of weave in and out of your work life, career with your childhood and some other questions that we'll have. But so how did you end up at Sims? Because you were working in the advertising world. Were you actually like a W-2
Mhm.
employee at a agency? Or were you doing contract work?
So there was a jump in between my time at the agency. I actually left the marketing agency and went to run the world's largest tournament bass fishing organization, which was actually based in Hopkins, Minnesota. The marketing arm was, and then the events arm was down in Bentonville, Kentucky. Sorry, not Bentonville, Benton, Kentucky, Bentonville, Arkansas, Benton, Kentucky. Yeah, sorry. And then I actually, Sims was a brand that I always had a high affinity for, and thought the work that they had done, in the 30 years or so before I got there was pretty remarkable. And so I actually approached a guy who used to run Costa sunglasses. At the time, he had just switched from running that to coming over and doing the marketing at Sims. And I actually approached him at an industry event called ICAST, which is every industry has their one trade show. This is sort of the one fishing trade show. And just so happened that he was like, hey, we want to actually hire someone where you live. So that I said, okay. And basically that was in July. And by September, I had my first iteration of my job at Sims.
Mm-hmm.
So you were down in Orlando and you approached Sims based out of Bozeman, Montana, right? And they wanted to hire somebody in Hopkins, Minnesota.
They wanted to hire someone, a lot of brands bring activations to life through like community managers, leaders.
So Midwest.
And
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So like not a sales rep, but a marketing person in that territory. Yeti did that. Costa did that. A lot of the brands that you kind of know of in the outdoor space and
Evolved
kind of kicked out of
right
with that. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you've been in marketing in various ways throughout most of your career, would you say?
I would say basically since I got to Minnesota. Prior to moving to Minnesota, we lived in Nebraska and I was running a nonprofit. And then prior to Nebraska, I chased my wife to New York, where she was going to grad school, and she has a pretty cool work trajectory in sports. I actually was doing high-end apartment renovations, like a project manager for pre-war buildings, kind of in on the west side in Chelsea.
Cool. Okay. So
Yeah.
is it fair to say that like you consider yourself, whatever this means, like a creative person? Like you've found yourself doing work that's more creative than like, I don't know, technical.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like if you show me a list of something, my retention of that is probably going to be pretty minimal. If you draw me a picture, unfortunately for me, that picture is going to literally be ingrained in my brain forever.
I think the phrase you're looking for is teach a man to fish.
So yeah, no, definitely. I was a studio art major in college, and I definitely lean more whatever side of the brain that is, for sure.
So what does that mean in terms of mediums of art?
I showed up I went to a school in Minnesota, and my roommate was taking organic chemistry, and I was getting to weld things for the same degree, and thought that was pretty funny. He actually ended up being a dentist. He's actually the dentist of my current boss in a weird way. Tiny world. But primarily metalworking, metal fabrication, and like bronze sculpture stuff at a very small scale. We actually had a foundry at St. Olaf, and really, really cool art facility that had just been built prior to my arrival. So kind of state of the art, which is funny when you're talking about art. It was actually the state of the art building. Yeah.
We'll have a conversation after this about Matt Gimsey.
Oh yeah. That's who the foundry's named after.
Yeah. Do you do anything with that anymore?
Not really. Well, I do shoot. Freelance photographer. I get hired to do a few bass tournaments every year still, and used to shoot for Sims. Have shot for some brands before. Definitely a huge hobby of mine that I've been able to turn in. I basically get hired to do enough shoots a year to pay for my photography equipment. Habit.
Yep.
The junkie that's selling his own stuff. But I used to tie flies a lot. I have not really been spending a bunch of time doing that. My golf game has been slowly but surely cannibalizing any time that I'm not spent fishing or working at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. There's an art in fly tying for sure.
Yeah.
So
do you still tie?
Oh yeah,
I
tie yours?
Yeah.
To your point though about art, like my wife is a very well-rounded person. I would say she had a stubbornness that she had sort of built up around artwork and going to galleries, and I realized that like modern art was not the place to take her, which was a category that I kind of dug. But we've turned a kind of a big corner in her appreciation for art, where it's just like, look, you don't have to like everything, you don't have to like anything, but the moment that you do sort of stop in front of something and it makes your brain positive or negative, or you start to cry or you smile or whatever, like that's the whole point of it. It's not all going to do that, right? But it's supposed to make you feel some sort of emotion. And we were actually just down in Mexico, and there was this really interesting like wall mural, and I was kind of walking along it, and I looked back, and Sarah was like super stoic and like kind of welly. It was a pretty intense narrative on just sort of the colonization of Mexico and sort of where it started and where it came. And she's like, this is really cool, and it's like, yeah, cool. Like that was your moment in there.
Yeah.
You can disregard whatever else you want,
Yeah. So you said you grew up in Southern Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
young Patterson, what kinds of things was he like? I think every kid has like a fear, whether it's the monster under their bed or whatever else. Like when you were at the age where like fear could kind of grip a hold of you, what was that for you?
Oh, probably not being liked. I was I was an only child and had an amazing childhood, amazing parents, had a unbelievable backyard that just opened into the great wide open spaces. Honestly, like you could basically disappear out my back door and you go down a field, you'd cross one cow fence. There's a pond that had some bluegill and stuff in it. You cross a barbed wire fence, go over the railroad tracks, cross another barbed wire fence, go through one more field, across one more barbed wire fence, and you're on the James River. And there wasn't another soul around. And so I would just disappear with a 22 and a fishing pole and whatever dog I had at the time. I think I've been through about 9 dogs already in my life, which is kind of crazy based on amount of time I've been around. But yeah, being an only child, man, you really you grind it pretty hard to make sure that everybody likes you, because you just
There's no fallback at home.
I had
like there's no like brother or sister to be like,
yeah,
oh,
there's no one, I was
Mhm.
the kid who would like ask you to come over on Thursday or like, hey, do you want to spend the night on Friday night? And I'd ask you on a Monday, and then like the whole week I'd be like, hey man, I'm so excited.
Yeah. Come on, man.
Like,
You didn't forget about that, did you? Did you ask your mom
yeah.
yet?
Yeah, exactly. We're good, right?
Right.
We're
You got
good.
that all
I've been
set up.
playing all week.
Yeah,
A couple takeaways
Um,
from your story. You crossed a lot of barbed wire fences.
yeah. I'm thinking how many of the
Yeah.
dogs ended up getting some
They
sort of.
probably went under and you went over, or you did the old push and go.
Yep, we had
So yeah.
I'm thinking there was some like
there's-
infections, and some of those dogs were lost because of whatever can happen when they get cut in the barb.
No, they barbed wire generally is the most lethal for dogs when you don't know it's there,
Yeah.
like that's how most of the dogs out west and stuff, when they're running them for grouse
Birds.
and
Yeah.
sage grouse and stuff like that, you kind of run right into it. But no, we had a couple of spots. We had big like labs and newfies and stuff, and so we had like sections of the fence where like
They could get
you
through.
could get underneath.
Mhm.
pretty
Another
easily.
thing
they would
is-
actually go down there all the time by themselves without
Just
me.
go.
It wouldn't have, it wouldn't rain for like 2 months in Missouri, and we had one dog that would come back just like muddy, and my dad's like, I don't, like, you can't find mud right now.
Right,
Like,
where were you? What state were you in?
yeah.
The other crazy thing is we tell, so I got a 14-year-old daughter and an 11-year-old son, and we tell them to go outside and play, and they just won't go. But I mean, you were probably out there for hours and your parents didn't even give it a second thought. Like you come back in at dusk and it's like, yeah, that's cool.
Well, because he had already demolished his Sims community that he created.
Yeah, a tornado came through, so you had to go outside and do something. But it's crazy
Yeah,
though. Like, yeah, even as a parent, you can't even think like, well, I wonder where my kid is. Back there, but yeah, he's just outside playing somewhere.
Yeah, he went through the 7.
Yeah, 7 barbed wire fences.
Yeah, 7 gates. Yeah,
7 gates of hell.
and the crazy thing is, I like a lot of the time I had a 22 with me.
Yeah.
So there was like even a
Mhm.
like, which is no one's sending a fat 12-year-old out in their backyard with
With a 22 and a dog.
a 22 and a dog.
Yeah, he'll be fine. He'll be fine.
Yeah.
So it sounds like whether or not you actually consider yourself introverted or not, there was a certain kind of like comfort being on your own, partly out of necessity. Like, I'm going to entertain myself, and me and my dog and my gun and my fishing rod, we're going to go and make some adventure and kind of entertain ourselves. And then kind of that need, you even said, you chased, I think you said, your now wife out to New York, or you like followed her,
Yeah.
right? So it's
No, I mean, she was kind of into it at that point, I think. So it wasn't like a hard chase. I don't want it to come across as like, stalking.
No, but it sounds a little bit like the
let me move in with her.
it sounds a little bit like asking the kid on Monday, do you want to stay overnight on Friday, though?
Yeah.
And then double checking.
Dude,
like,
Hey, Sarah, did you ask your mom yet?
yeah, we're still dating.
Yeah, I
right?
mean, I like I said, I'll turn 40 this year. But I'll be married 17 years already. So I didn't waste any
Got to
time.
it.
Yeah. There's the fears were actualized into making a lifelong commitment.
That's good.
Working out, thankfully.
That's his adult fear.
Yeah, I think by this point, 17 years, I think, is when you start to believe that they actually do like you, right? Is it 17 years? Is when you believe
Or
that?
not like you. Yeah.
Yeah, super cliche. Definitely best friend situation with no kids, and but yeah, it's yeah, only children. Like, I actually feel like I turned out okay. Like, I think there's a little bit of a negative connotation sometimes with only kid. Like, and people will say it in front of me, which there's nothing you can say in front of me that offends me. Marco can attest to that. But
You suck.
I always I always like the only child, and I've been lobbying all of my friends to only have one.
Mhm.
And like I keep thinking like, oh man, it's gonna happen, and then the next thing you know, it's like, oh, we're gonna have 6 more.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Well, another one in the oven.
It was pretty nice.
Yeah.
It was pretty nice.
Nice job, Margot.
There's really no natural way to segue to this next question.
Except that way.
Yeah, except for say that and then ask the question. But what are your thoughts on aliens?
Yeah, go for it. Aliens?
Yeah.
I've seen a UFO.
Oh, okay. Say
I
more.
have video of it.
Oh,
Was it out in Montana?
And nope, it
Oh.
was at my cabin in Wisconsin.
Oh, yeah, makes sense.
And I wasn't the first one to see it.
like in that moment, somebody else was with you that saw it. So
Yeah.
you could like look at each other and say, "You see that too, right?"
Mm-hmm. Any video of
Correct.
it. So
I was actually inside. So we were very fortunate that like the cadence of when we were able to purchase homes was in the cadence of when they're at their lowest value,
Mhm.
which do not take for granted. But we have a really cool cabin up on the Chippewa River in Wisconsin, and my buddy Sean and myself were up there just chilling, and we'd had some cocktails, but it wasn't like a debaucherous. It was only like 9 o'clock,
No sober
8:30.
at night or the morning. Just to clarify, you're in Wisconsin.
Yep. So yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It was the morning.
No sober person. No sober person has
Yeah.
ever seen a UFO.
Great question. Yeah. So it was like that kind of last light, late summer,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
So I'm actually inside doing dishes or whatever, and my buddy Sean's taking a piss down next to the river, like two guys do when no one else is around, right?
Yeah.
And we have a pretty open sky in all directions, so like the stars are amazing. I'm like a big plane and bird nerd, so like we actually, due to the curvature of the earth, which if you agree with it, whatever, I do.
I do believe the earth
flat
is round.
Yeah, are you confirming we're not flat earthers? Is that what happened here?
Yeah,
Just so we're on the
because,
same
like, I
page.
would just-
I think we're good.
Yeah,
I think we're all good.
It's
here.
round.
Okay. There's a graphic where it's like people who think the earth is flat and how Japan attacked the United States, and it's like this straight line all the way across the bottom of the earth and then up around and back up, anyways, so like there's a major air highway that's directly above our cabin, and so I'm on the road all the time, and by road I mean in a plane. So I use FlightAware all the time. Like, I want to know where my plane's been. I want to know where it's going after. Like, I'm just sitting at the airport being like, if I see a private jet, I type in the tail number, research the company. I want to know why this PJ is sitting, in Mexico. Like, very inquisitive.
I want to check out where Taylor Swift is.
Yeah, exactly. Anyways, so my point in all of that is that I am looking in this general direction very frequently. And so all of a sudden my buddy yells at me, get out here, get out here, get out here. So I'm like, oh God, because we have bears and bobcats and like all sorts of stuff, So I'm like, sick, like there's some critter over on the other side of the river or whatever. So I like run out, and he goes, what the is that? And I look up, and I'll send you guys the video. There is a cylinder that's like, this, and there's just enough light on it that I can get my camera to focus on it, and you can see that it's like in rotation, like pizza pie in rotation with a little nub on top of it. So, like, I know it sounds crazy. I just have chills talking about it.
Yeah,
right now.
I'm enthralled.
So all the other aircraft, and we have little planes, like there's a float plane that takes off down by us or whatever. So I'm also getting pretty good at judging like altitude of like craft,
Yeah.
you know, and like knowing like this one's just circling or like this one's going to this regional airport or whatever. So this thing comes like, I'm going to say, you know, it's like a fist above the tree line, you know, so it was probably a couple thousand feet in the air. And it's coming at us like this, you know, so like basically pushing in on you, right? And nothing I've ever seen in the world flies like that, you know. Like I've never seen something like not like with no curve, you know, like golf balls don't do this, you know. Everything's sort of doing this. It just pushed right into us, and then it got within, I don't know how far it was, but there's the direction in which we're looking. There's a bluff, right? So like it's feeling like it's kind of more elevated and close, and it actually has sort of like a frame, right? So it's like getting closer to a tree line, and it stops and then just starts going. So it pushes in, and it wasn't fast. Like it was just this like literally like if someone had a light bulb from back here and just started pushing a light bulb towards you. Meanwhile, like in the video, you can see this thing going
spinning,
and then it just goes thunk, and it just like got away and over the tree line, and that was it.
Did you jump on the computer and check our FAA flight pattern to see if there was?
I had the app on my phone, and nothing registered. You know, there wasn't. And I mean, like we get like we have Starlink. I've seen the trail of satellites. Like I see satellites all the time. Like this thing was like just higher than like your normal regional plane. Like it wasn't. Yeah. Huh. It's a pretty. I'll send you guys the video. Maybe you can.
So
Marco can.
I think to answer your question is a yes.
I think yes.
Okay, yeah.
although not to the extent of the. Have you guys seen the Netflix documentary about the guy who starts the alien religion?
No.
It's called the Alien Prophet or whatever. Not to the extent that dude believes in them.
Okay.
He turned it into a cult.
So there's levels. There's levels to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Patterson's
level totally 100%.
Okay.
That's a pretty cool story.
Well, yeah, I'm very intrigued. Yeah. I want to see that video.
This episode of French Toast Fridays is sponsored by Align Coaching, guidance to live in alignment with your purpose and values.
Okay, so you and Sarah live your life. She's a well-rounded person, as you say. You're a creative,
really getting
artist, into art, marketing expert, travel person for work and life. You spend a fair amount of time in boats, standing on the shores of rivers. I know that this guy wants to do a little nerding out about fish, but I don't fish. My Sarah, her dad is way into fishing, so I'll go fishing with him and like listen to it. But I grew up on a lake skiing, right? So like sitting still in the boat never appealed to me as much as like, let's go fast behind it.
Yeah.
Like for maybe people like me, what is, at least in your experience and from people that you talk to, and because you're in the marketing world for a company that sells the products and kind of the lifestyle of fishing, what is it about fishing and any, variety of fishing that you think makes it so popular and something so many people do?
Man, I could talk an hour about it. I honestly think because I've made this like huge jump into the golf world, that it is actually basically it's triggering the exact same brain function as golf is. You have like these experiences that you wouldn't normally be having if you weren't participating in it, first and foremost. Like, and depending on how much money you spend in golf and fishing, the beauty of those places can increase multiplied by the dollar amount that you're willing to fork out for it. There's all sorts of gear that you need. So those people that are like gear focused. And then I think that there's like, like I was saying, kind of joking about earlier about if you drew me a picture, I'd remember it forever. My brain's also very wired to create pictures that I remember, and that whether that's fishing or a great golf shot, like those seem to kind of just get ingrained up there. But I think it's very, very similar to the people who, I think that's why a lot of people who golf like to fish, and if you're and vice versa. But if you there's a competitive nature to it. If you're, as an only child, my biggest competitor is myself. Like, I never got motivated to beat someone. Like, I want to go to a lake, best whatever species is in there, or like I want to go to a golf course and people are like, hey, you want to like put some money on this hole? It's like, yeah, with myself. Like I want to give myself a cocktail afterwards if I like, could get out under par, like on this hole or whatever. But yeah, I think, and I do think a lot of people have emotional like upbringing ties to that. There's some fondness of memories from childhood and grandparents or parents. You kind of get the real. I think when you get on a golf course or you get out on a boat or you're standing on a river with someone, like a lot of the formalities of the normal day-to-day life sort of fade away, and you get the real person version of whoever you're, whether that's, then sometimes that's good and sometimes it's terrible.
It's a great answer.
But I think that's like my dad was way different in a duck blind than he was when I was forgetting to do something around the house.
I like that.
Yeah, that was really good. Yeah, I mean, that resonates with me. Going out to Montana is as much the atmosphere and the environment rather than just trying to get a fish on the end of the line. So and you're right. The more you're willing to pay, the prettier the spot can be.
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, it's so true. Yeah.
Yeah, it's I mean, fishing is I think there's a really cool camaraderie in it. There's ways to prove you're better at doing it than others, but it's not really the point of it.
Right.
And really the knowledge sharing community that comes out of fishing is pretty cool. Our current sort of like ethos or tagline at Sims, if you will, is like is you get one life, fish it well. And it's a little morbid to me at times, just because you're kind of like, damn, serious, like
yeah, right.
But fish it well is sort of this. It's not like
that.
Oh, go catch the biggest fish.
It's
just whatever that means for you.
It's crazy. I'm from Wisconsin, and so just an hour from the Twin Cities, and we get a group out called Fishing for Life, and it gears towards youth that don't ever get a chance to do that. And they just loved it. The opportunity just to be out there on the water. I mean, there's so much to it. And when you'd see those kids again, they just couldn't wait to fish again. And it had nothing to do with whether or not they caught anything. It was as much the environment or just being out there with somebody. So, yeah.
You sounded like you're describing places where it's an embodied experience. You are present, right? Like you might have stuff going on in your life that causes stress or whatever else, but and you didn't even intentionally say, okay, I'm going to set that aside. It's something about the activity and the place and whatever else is going on that just you're there.
Yeah, I think I actually snapped a femur riding a wake skateboard in my life. Like I've spent some time getting whipped around behind some boats. I think it's essentially what your happiness should like in some form be, is that like in that moment, whether you're about to get yanked out of the water and give the head shake with your two hands on the triangle or whatever, like to your point, your whole body is present, your whole like all muscles and brain activity and senses are all focused on accomplishing one thing. Or not accomplishing it at all, like, or there might be like you're like, oh, my second turn, I'm really gonna try and like push myself for like I think it's just a natural trigger that some people, it might be knitting a hat, and like, dude, if that
sounds like Marco.
But like if that's what gets you like in your zen, then knit away, man. Like more power to you. I
think Sims could probably potentially lose you to Michaels.
I don't know,
Knit
man.
away, man.
Dude, have you ever been in a Joann Fabrics?
Joann
Like
Fabrics,
that
yeah.
store? Oh yeah, that
Yeah.
store brings out all types of people.
There's,
Like
I
you want
actually
to
have a
talk
lot of
about
trauma. My mom sewed a lot. And so growing up, it was like I was mom was a little helper and she'd bring me to like fabric stores and we'd be there for hours. And I just like,
yeah,
that's not a cool place for a kid to be stuck in.
no, no. But if you walk through a Joann Fabrics on like a Saturday afternoon, you're going to see every corner of the world
Yeah.
walk through that
Yeah.
place. You know, like it's
Yeah. Everybody wears
a
clothes.
unifying
Everybody
store.
likes blankets.
Yeah.
No.
It's needed.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. So how often are you out in Bozeman?
Couple times every other month, you know, like
Okay.
10 days. Sometimes I'm out there for 10 days pretty close to each other, and other times it's spread out. I still travel quite a bit to other events and things as well. But I really like Montana. Oddly enough, my wife graduated high school in Montana. She was an Air Force brat. But Bozeman, man, like it has absolutely like evolved into a whole nother planet since I started going out
Just
there
in
in
the
the last
10
6
years.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the fly shop, I always tell everyone the fly shop when I first started going out to Bozeman, it was on Main Street, is now Lululemon.
Yeah.
You know,
They do make
it's
great,
a pretty big.
they make great fishing stuff though.
It's only that just totally would make sense. Like, why not switch that to a Lululemon? So,
Yeah.
I should
I mean, I
have
wear
teed
a
up.
lot of
I should have teed up the question though. I guess Sims, as a business operation, the headquarters is in Bozeman, and they also have one other store in Bozeman. And then other than that, you sell out to outdoors, like a Cabela's, or you sell through something like that channel, right?
Sims was started by a guy named John Sims, who actually invented like croquis, you know,
Oh,
like
yeah.
the sunglass retainers.
Yeah.
And in a weird roundabout way, his not new, but the thing that he spends the vast majority of his time doing now is gigantic metal sculptures.
Really?
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
ties you back into him.
Yeah. I mean, and Mac, you know, like
Right?
it's kind of, I've never met John, but he does these really interesting, kind of modern looking buffaloes, like profiles, you know, very cool. But yeah, and then we have two. So there's manufacturing in Bozeman still. We have a large American manufacturing facility. Not large, but we pump out a couple different styles of waders that are made from start to finish in Bozeman, which is hard for most companies to say now, like assembled, you know, pieced together, whatever. But we can actually say that like our pinnacle wader, the G4Z, is actually handmade in Montana. We have 2 retail locations in Montana. There's a River's Edge west and a River's Edge east. And then, you know, our primary source of our 2 main places that we sell are our direct to consumer site, and then but more importantly our specialty retail partners, like your mom and pop kind of fly shops all throughout the United States and internationally. Like that's actually really what grew the brand, or those guys. We've only recently started, like we have a really good relationship with some of the big box stores like Shields, and but that's a relatively new piece of our business. The vast majority of it was in like places like a Bob Mitchell's fly shop, you know.
Yeah.
Bob does great stuff though.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, or something like that.
I can say that I've bought a pair of waders at River's Edge West, and not to scope out any money or revenue out of your pocket, but just down the road is a Goodwill, and I bought a really nice pair of Sims waders from that Goodwill as well.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a 2-wader day.
I mean, I think
I don't know if that's considered Belgrade or Bozeman, but yeah.
Yeah, Belgrade. Yeah, Belgrade. Yeah, back towards the airport.
Yeah.
I mean, it's. I was actually talking to one of our sales reps about this the other day. Is like, you know, there's this resurgence in vintage, and vintage was or reused clothes, right? Like everyone's kind of like. There's actually I was in Paris over Christmas, and there's a store right in one of the most expensive districts, and their whole deal is like you bring in your tennis shoes that you like, and they basically like resole them and fix them up. Doesn't matter what the brand is. Like, so, breathe new life into whatever the kicks are.
New Soul. Should
Yeah.
contact them.
Great podcast
Yeah.
name. May not work for you
Well,
too, though.
if we do a shoe thing.
But now, like with Grailed and like Depop or like any of that, I mean, dude, like I just bought, this is like a never worn Imperial, like super, like 19.
I remember those hats.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 1980s, early 90s hat, for $25 on eBay. And it's like, dude, you can find so much good stuff on Facebook Marketplace or wherever, it's
those waders you got, whoever that person was must not be hurting, because they probably could have sold those for a pretty penny online.
That is the best Goodwill in the world.
Yeah.
That one in Belgrade or Bozeman is just unreal. The stuff that's in there.
All those wealthy people that are like, I can just give it away.
I like peeking in the pawn shops and every once in a while in like those towns where I was like, I wonder what,
that's good.
What's in here?
So do you have a team that can kind of work remotely as you do, or does everyone that kind of answers to or with you all in that that kind of headquarters area?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely wouldn't say anyone answers to me, but get to work with some great people that are spread out all over my team is I have team members in different cities in Montana, and then my boss is in Michigan, and one of the guys that I work with who's on my team is just outside Boston. So there's a few. Most of the people though are within a 30-minute drive of the home office.
Yeah, I threw out the word team because I think the last time we were on schedule to do this with you, you ghosted us for a fishing day.
I don't think he
with your
ghosted.
team.
I did.
I think he told us at the last minute.
I did. Yeah, no, I mean, I do have people that I'm responsible overseeing, but I'm one of those bosses that's I don't know, man.
It's off. Yeah.
It's like we're all getting paid to be there. Some of us have different roles and responsibilities, but I don't really feel like I'm much of a boss because my crew is so dialed without any guidance that if I got hit by a bus or whatever, they'd be fine.
What's your number one type of fishing? You a bass fisherman? Do you enjoy?
I do love bass fishing. I love muskie fishing. If it's like I'm at the point now with my muskie fishing where I wake up and it feels like a good day to do it. I'll do it, but the days of forcing it every day for me are kind of over. But yeah, dude, I really love bonefish.
Yeah.
I'm big saltwater guy. We went and fly fish for marlin 2 years ago off the coast of Baja with fly rods. Was awesome. I'm kind of down for whatever. I get a little bored, honestly.
Yeah.
If I go to the same lake or
well, with your industry, it's good to be versatile in location and type. So that's great.
Yeah, the fishing industry is funny, man. It's like you kind of invariably you end up having to show some sort of talent in front of people.
This guy doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah, it's like if you're running marketing for a golf brand and you got up on the tee box and you couldn't hit a drive, they'd probably be like, dude, this is the guy who's same kind of deal. But no, I've been extremely fortunate to have some really nice fishing opportunities and experiences.
Well, I mean, it seems like you live a life of passion, with work and life. I mean, it seems like you got some good travels under your belt too, with some of the stories you shared with us, and just a well-rounded out. I mean, you've had the alien experience, so you've lived a life of many lives.
No, I mean, last night I was sitting across from Sarah, and I told her since I had the day off, I was like, I'm going and hitting balls in the morning. She's like, what time are you going? I'm like, oh, I'm going to try and get there before 8 because that's when basically the retired crew is at the Dome. And she's like, oh, making use of your day. And I was like, well, TikTok, man, like,
Well, like my
you
job
just run
says,
it
fish it
out of
well.
time,
Yeah, you got to fish it well. Hit it
Yeah,
straight, fish it
but
well.
I don't know if you're not like doing something other than consuming screen time or
I thought you were going to
something
say
in a
Girl
day.
Scout cookies, but
Oh,
if you're not
dude,
consuming Girl Scout cookies, what else is there?
so yesterday, my wife came home, set the boxes down. I was like, oh, sick. Yeah. Like, open up the Thin Mints, grab 3, just like basically like Big Mac them.
Yep.
And I like looked at the packaging, big packaging nerd, seeing if they like updated anything or whatever. And like I spin it around and it's the nutrition thing. And it's like a serving is 4. And like I was like, oh yeah, like
Got
one more.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were going to grab 5 more.
No, like, I can justify.
Yeah, I only eat these in multiples of 4.
That's right.
Yeah. So I think I've had a serving every day so far since they've been
good.
here. So.
I don't know if you're able to answer this or not, because as expected, you have all these varying interests, passions, experiences, things that it seems like some of them are newer, like the golf thing, where that's kind of like, seems like that's grabbed a hold of some of that. Like if there's a passion pie, like it's a pretty big slice right now, but then you have some things like the fishing. It's like, it's always there, but now maybe you're just like saying, I want to do it when I want to do it, not when not feeling like I have to. What would you say is the most meaningful thing going on in your life right now, though?
Meaningful? I mean, man, I've meaningful for sure is just like everyone that's really in close proximity to me right now has good health, and is like fine at the moment, like that's definitely ebbed and flowed over the last handful of years. If I'm talking really selfishly, like I really like where my golf swing's at right now. But there's definitely bigger priorities. Yeah, I mean, my like cliche saying to everyone is always like, I woke up breathing. But like I kind of try and grind each day to the max. But not like in like a David Goggins way, like I'm not like running 100 miles in the desert at night by any means.
So if I had asked, like, where do you derive the most enjoyment right now, you'd probably say like hitting that sweet spot on the golf club and just watching the ball fly.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And I'm guessing your club twirling is on point right now.
I'm not a big, but I mean, like, dude, it's really funny. I had been going, I played a little bit when I was growing up, and then hated it. Family was like kind of involved with the country club, and I hated every single kid that was at that country club. So I just was like, golf is dumb, and I basically was doing landscaping stuff.
You had to
getting paid. Yeah, getting paid. Yeah, I had no choice.
That's what the babysitter said.
Getting to do the landscaping stuff. They brainwash you with Aladdin.
Yeah, you're lucky to have this job. You know how many more kids I could make do this?
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I have a very addictive personality, which has been good in some parts of my life and bad in others. But yeah, I really get ate up with something and then just kind of like, but the cool thing was like, so really started playing, like, this is my second year, and I'm like sneaking into the 80s every once in a while, and like we're trying to get into like a single digit handicap. Like that's I wrote my goals, for this year. But I was like, man, I need another lesson. Like I need, like I'm enjoying it, and I've made buddies with a guy at Braemar who's just getting into fly fishing.
I see this.
Hobby swap.
So he's a golf instructor, and I picked him because I was like, dude, is that guy wearing like a Fly Lords, which is kind of a media, fly fishing media company? And I'm like, he's wearing a Grateful Dead Fly Lords hat. Like he and I are definitely getting along. And so we were basically talking about tying with bucktail like the whole time while he's like trying to straighten me out, which is just, everybody like, and fly fishing to him is what golf is to me at the moment. Like he was so like, it's going to sound kind of arrogant, but like, fishing, whether it's not you can think of it as being cooler than any industry potentially, right? Like you're like, oh, this person works in fishing, but it's still an industry that consumes the vast majority of your existence. And so it's like, if you work in insurance and someone starts talking about insurance, you're like, dude,
I'm not at work right
anything
now.
else, you know,
Right.
like,
Yeah.
you know, or whatever that is.
Yeah.
And it's way easier to conversate about fishing 100% of the time. But yeah, I just needed a little something else to like add into the Instagram feed. And I will say that and you mentioned it earlier, but like for me, I really, really, really enjoy fishing when I get to share it with another individual. And I used to fish a lot by myself because I was like trying to progress and get better and like fail on certain days, but then like also go out on some days and come back and be like, I caught 3 muskies today. Like you should have been there, you know? And now that personal, like screaming at myself, you're a failure, or like those is definitely like on the golf course now, you know, like go do that by yourself. And then if there are friends or godsons or whatever want to come, you know, want to come do their thing, like that, then I'm like amped to go take them.
Yeah.
You know,
That's cool.
Share that with them. That's so great.
By the way, I just noticed I think you've been holding the golf tee this whole time, haven't you?
Yeah, you're keeping it close to your heart.
there's all sorts of like, I used to have a really cool desk with lots of stuff, and then we redid our basement. So there was like flies hanging all over the place. And I have a reputation for like whipping a bucktail in my hand, you know, on campus posts. I can't sit and talk.
Yeah.
So I have a stand-up desk that raises and lowers, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Since this is where I spend my life.
That's awesome.
Basically.
Last question I have for you. With everything that you've done in life, with everything that you seem to have a pretty deep knowledge about, if you had the opportunity to give a TED Talk, what would the topic be?
Man, I don't know. I think probably something along the lines of like pushing yourself in something, you know, making choices or going through experiences that get you out of your comfort zone, or that you don't feel like you're proficient in, you know, and like being okay to fail. And I think that kind of, you know, it probably transcends into like being able to manage your ego, you know, in a weird roundabout way of just sort of like, if you only do things you're good at all the time or don't ever step outside your comfort zone, then you get pretty confident in yourself, you know, which I think is unfortunately not the best thing for the vast majority of people.
I'd tune into
Yeah,
that if that was your TED Talk. I mean, I think you should title it something like My Babysitter's Pyramid Scheme or something like that. But
yeah, no, it like I don't really consider myself much of an expert on anything, but
you seem to be good at a lot of things, though. So
dude, it all comes down to having time to do it,
right, right.
You know, and like, you know, I'll like ask someone like, "Oh, have you ever read this?" And like, as I'm asking it, it's like, dude, they got 4 kids.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like you're on a plane
right
every week. Like, of course you have the ability to like read more. Or like I'll go fish with someone, they're like, man, you know, like you're really good at backing a trailer down. It's like, dude, I worked in a marina and at an agency that all we did was back boat trailers down. Like if that was on a job resume, I could literally that actually I will say very arrogantly that if I had a talent that I would be like, I'm pretty damn good at it, it'd be back in a trailer. And I think Marco can attest to that.
I can vouch for him.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Superpower.
But that's because I did it. It's like a golf swing or a fly cast, you know, if you do it 2,000 times.
Yeah.
Muscle memory.
I actually think that would be a really interesting TED Talk.
Back in the trailer.
How to back up a boat trailer.
And why I'm so good at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's you got your 10,000 hours or close to it with doing that, you know, anything.
That's great.
Trust the mirrors.
Yep.
Yeah. That's great. That's great.
Well, this has been awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much. One of the things that we want to do as a thank you for all of our guests is kind of contribute to and partner with the things that they care about, whether that's causes or issues that they're concerned about or organizations that are doing stuff that inspire them. And so we had asked you ahead of time to kind of think about what you care about. Maybe it's a nonprofit, but we would love to be able to give to that and then share the word. What would be like the first thing that you'd say, you know what, like I'd be really honored if you guys supported this organization that you wanted other people to know about. Tell the people something that you care about.
Man, it's so tough to pick one. My wife worked for the Special Olympics. She just went to go just left to go do the polar plunge.
Oh,
yeah.
Not quite as polar.
I know,
50-degree day or whatever.
But but she's got that one covered.
Yeah.
I do think Special Olympics is an amazing organization. My stuff is really like the things that kind of wind me up a lot are like the human race just like manipulating things that they really shouldn't be messing with, which is an endless proposition of the stuff that we've been doing. But there's a couple big things right now in the fishing world and just like healthy water ecosystems. And like one of those is they've just greenlit an Australian company to start drilling right around the Smith River in Montana. And so that's not actually going to be the one I'm going to have you do, but I do want to call it out in that there's always like a push and pull. I feel like in life, like, if I could still get away with wearing the yin yang choker that I had when I was in 7th grade, I'd probably do it. But you think about like electric vehicles, right? And it's interesting that if you Google how many pounds of copper are in a battery in one of those vehicles, the places in which they're gathering that copper are unfortunately some of the most glorious places on planet Earth, whether it's the Boundary Waters or the Smith River. So it would be something that I would just call out to people is like, there are always positive. I'm not saying anything bad about electric vehicles or, one way or the other, but everything requires something to be manufactured. The big one for me right now is Captains for Clean Waters. It's a Florida-based organization, and there's a lake called Lake Okeechobee. Lake Okeechobee is historically a really well-known bass fishing lake. All the water from Okeechobee used to drain naturally through the Everglades into the ocean. And over time, the state of Florida has redirected the water flow for canals and different channels and things like that. So the natural flow out of Lake Okeechobee has been sort of diverted over the course of time. And what you're starting to see is at the south end of Okeechobee, there's these giant sugar mills. But they're definitely a negative. But golf courses, like all that stuff, is feeding into this redirected water system that because it's not going to the Everglades and its natural orientation doesn't have the ability to like filter properly. So you're getting these huge algae blooms on one side or like the red, you're getting some big fish kills. So they're kind of trying to do everything that they can to like reinstate the natural flow of that waterway. And I just think it checks so many different boxes, like, suburban growth, man's manipulation of water, probably shouldn't be eating as much sugar as we are as Americans, healthy fisheries, so I guess my ask would be the Captains for Clean Waters crew down there in Florida.
Okay. Nice. Well, thanks for sharing that, and we will put some information up about a number of the things that you talked about, including
I'm sending you my UFO video.
Yes. Oh yeah,
put that up too.
Well, we may even put that up there, but so check the French Toast Fridays website show page for more information about a lot of what Patterson has shared, including how you can support that good organization that's doing some important work. So, well, thank you again. It's fun to hear your stories and get to know you, and we're thankful for you taking the time to join us today. Hopefully this will be the year that you shoot in the low 80s. And
I hope so. My first round of 2024, I went out on 41.
Okay.
Ooh.
So
I'm feeling.
Yeah.
I came back in the 52.
Okay.
So we fell apart. There's a lot of blind drives. It was a tough course, but we've definitely, it's possible. It's in there somewhere. I just got to get out of my own head.
That's
Have you
awesome.
been out much with this warm weather that we've had?
I played down in Mexico.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, went down there and played a couple rounds. I go to the Dome like twice a week.
Okay.
The Braemar Golf Dome.
Cool.
But I generally am there with the retired crew.
Yep.
So
Yep.
Good group.
Well, golf, it sounds like similar to fishing. I've always thought of as a metaphor for life, and you can never master it. You got to keep working at it, and all sorts of little things can get in your way, and distractions can I don't know.
I don't agree with that, but yeah. I think you can master life and all of those other things. Yeah.
Well, Patterson Leeth, thanks for joining us. Check out the website for all information about the things that he shared, including that UFO video, and we'll hopefully get the word out about how the fact that apparently whoever is out there has been hanging around Wisconsin,
Chippewa Falls.
and if you go out at night to take a pee, you might also get to meet them.
Drawing them in.
Yeah,
It's like fishing. Just throw the worm out there.
yeah.
Yep, exactly.
All right. Well, keep fishing a good life, man.
Awesome.
Take it easy, guys.
Thanks, Patterson. Yeah, have a good one.
Thanks, Patterson. See
Bye,
you
Margo.
later.
Bye.
This episode of French Toast Fridays is sponsored by Legacy River Coffee. Legacy River, savoring tradition, one sip at a time. What's up, Toasties? Thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to learn more about today's guest or anything we talked about, visit the show page on FrenchToastFridays.com. We believe that a lot of people have great stories that are worth telling, and we plan on continuing to do this. So if you know someone who would be a great guest, or if you want to be a sponsor on the show, please send us a note at FrenchToastPod@gmail.com. And always remember, life is best when it's simple and sincere with plenty of syrup.